This and that and what the fuck else, episode 100. I had plans for this episode to make it something else, but time is precious. And today I produced 3 Skidmarks that I have already published, and the one specifically about the Donbass atrocities was emotionally draining. I really cannot understand how the West is selling what they are doing there to their citizens. But their time is running out. If I read the signs properly, there are more and more voices coming up. And I just before I started with this recording, I saw something on Telegram, one or other big politician that said there's no way that they can continue supporting the Ukraine. He's got a problem with the Nazi stories, and he's very upset about the fact that they are bombing churches. But slowly but surely people's eyes will open. And I want to thank all of those that are commenting and sending me messages and so forth. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And I will carry on with what I'm doing. I won't change the formats, and I'm not going to change the way that I present, because that is who and what I am. And if it's a little bit rough around the edges for some, I'm sorry. But that is how I am. I call a spade a shovel, and I don't make excuses for it. But let's hit the road. I'm going to start this one off with this image. Now, in a photographic competition environment, this will be entered in the category called altered reality, because the artist started off with a photograph. It is a photograph, and then he digitally modified it. I really like this shot. It is impressive. I like the composition, and many people has got a problem with square photographs. I don't have. Sometimes the reality is that a square photograph gives the best of the content. I really like this shot. In any case, that is what art does. It makes us think. And then we get to this, and I'm now with the pestilence, and you really need to listen carefully. CDC quietly confirms at least 118,000 children and young adults have died suddenly in the USA since the rollout of the snake bites. I am stunned. I am absolutely stunned. In spite of all these things that are coming out, it seems to me nobody is going to pay for what was done to humanity. And then we get to the Donbass, and here is that cretin. In one of my previous videos, I called him an animal, but that is absolutely wrong. I'm wrong to call him an animal. Animals are not like that. This thing is a Satanist. President of Ukraine, Zelensky, arrived in Donbass. He recorded a video against the background of the Slaviansk stele. Zelensky recorded a video against the backdrop of the Slaviansk stele, which is located on the road to Kramatorsk. This is the rear part of the city, about 50 kilometers from the front line. It can be argued that the president of Ukraine is now in the Donbass and is watching how the armed forces of Ukraine are shelling peaceful Russian cities. And I did a skidmark on that. I suggest you go and look at it. And then there was this. At least 6 civilians were killed today during the shelling of Donetsk, the mayor said. The Ukrainians are repeatedly attacking the civilian areas. New strikes damages the city youth center, the South bus station, the Golden Ring shopping center, and the yellow shopping center near the central department store. Take note, shopping centers, bus stops, things like that. I don't have words for it. And then here's some of the comments that appear under this article on Telegram. This will only end when the terrorists are wiped out. The US live in comfort and safety while they bomb the shit out of Donetsk, killing women and children. They've been doing this for decades all around the world. I hope one day this will happen to US cities. The terrorists are impotent without the backing of their US masters. What the fuck does this achieve? Absolutely nothing other than killing the innocent. And there was, I think, 190 responses on that post. I only took a few out of it, but the general tone is captured in this, what I've just read to you here. I don't really think the West understands the animosity and hatred that is in billions of people towards their activities. Here's some more from the Donbass. The center of Donetsk continues to be bombarded with Grad missiles. And then we have this. You better watch where you're going. That must be the motto of the new Ukraine. People standing with their hands against the fence are a woman and her son. They live in Kherson. If they're still alive after the neighbors brought the thugs to them, the woman and her son haven't been killed, tortured or robbed anyone. They only speak Russian, watch Russian channels, and the young man has received his salary in rubles. That's why they were put against the wall. It's entirely possible that right now they are being tortured under interrogation. Ask yourself, are you sure that the Ukrainian president is fighting for freedom? These methods look more like a ruthless dictatorship. The fate of the people in this video is unknown. I read things like that and my blood boils. Donetsk is on fire again. One of the Ukrainian strikes hit a market in the center of Donetsk. R1A Novost correspondent reports. The mayor also said that the Centaurus Plaza was on fire in the center of the city and a shell hit the building of the Druzhba Sports Palace. And then we get this. Donetsk is smashed, civilians are killed and injured, but Western sources do not publish data on this. They publish the numbers of dead and injured in the territory controlled by Ukraine carefully, pointing out that the cause of death is military operations. But the hypocrites carefully hush up how many died on our side during this long years of war. Over the past day in the LPR, 7 civilians were killed and 30 were injured from shelling by militants of Alkevsk and Frubovka. Anti-aircraft missiles of the American MLRS M142 HIMARS, 6 missiles, and MLRS BM21 Grad, 8 shells were used against 2 cities. And then you look at this. The congressman is in vain indignant. Of course the Ukrainian Nazis are scoundrels, but it's your scoundrel, Paul. Republican Congress Paul Gosar, in response to the shelling of a church in Donetsk, called the US support for Kiev immoral. And that's how it begins. But just look at these images. This is a church that they bombed today. How the fuck can you associate yourself with? And then we get to energy. Russian oil selling at $79 a barrel in Asia on Monday, well above the price cap. Russia's ESPO oil Brent from the far eastern port of Kozbino was selling for around $79 a barrel in the Asian markets on Monday, almost a third higher than the price cap imposed on Russian oil by the G7 and European Union. Now, all I'm going to say, Ursula von der Crazy, your plan is in tatters. in tatters, I say. And then we get to this gender shit. Pedophilia is not a sexual preference. Bugs are not food. mRNA injections are not vaccines. Men are not women. The news is not real. Climate change is not a threat. The government is not your friend. And I suggest you take a mental picture of this and file it deep in your mind. And then we get to this absolute ludicrous but hilarious thing. Look at that, what is happening there. De-icing that wind turbine. It reads, "Don't mind us, we're just burning hundreds of gallons of jet fuel to de-ice this clean energy wind turbine." And that tells you the story. And then we get to this. Ukrainian TG Town Channel. Our source reports that the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry is ignoring the statements and appeals of citizens abroad about their plight. Ukrainians massively complain that the Foreign Ministry does nothing to defend the rights of the Ukrainians abroad. While all the partners speak publicly about their love for Ukraine, our refugees are cut in every possible way to help. Benefits are cancelled. They are evicted from their homes, forcing them to leave. At the same time, Kuleba did not take the side of the Ukrainians more than once, but on the contrary ignores the cries for help of the Ukrainians, leaving people to the mercy of fate. As the source explains, this is done in order to stop a new wave of refugees from Ukraine, where survival is already becoming unbearable. Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Office of the President are in the know, and they have given their consent to such actions of partners in relation to our refugees. Well, all I can say is, get some more for yourself. You chose that government. And then we have this. Hundreds of migrants camp out in tents in central Paris. Over 300 migrants who are claiming they are minors have set up a tent city out of front of the Louvre Museum in Paris. The demonstration was organized by activist groups in order to put a spotlight on the living conditions of migrants, many of whom are from West Africa and Afghanistan. All I'm going to say is the citizens of those countries, this is in France, there are French people that used to pay taxes, that are suffering and struggling. Irish against Ukrainian refugees. Residents of Dublin in Ireland gathered at the protest against the placement of Ukrainian refugees. The actions took place in the central area of Eastwall. Local residents expressed their disagreement with the government's actions on the matter of accommodating refugees from Ukraine. And I spoke to a friend of mine that lives in Ireland, and he says there is Irish people that are suffering and that doesn't have housing, but the government give housing to the immigrants. And then we have this. Homeless Ukrainian refugees up 30% in a month as host families end support. So it seems to me they will have to go back to Ukraine. And then you get this insanity from Lithuania. Look at that massive monument. It is the country's largest World War II monument, and they are busy destroying it. Visuals show works dismantling statues that honor Soviet soldiers who died in the fight against Nazi Germany. These people has gone totally bonkers. And then this is something interesting. Rostec State Corporation presented a special medical vehicle Lada Niva Legend 4x4 KUB at the Russian Health Week exhibition. The car can evacuate up to 4 wounded and is distinguished by complex armor with BR3 ballistic steel, capable of stopping a 5.45 caliber bullet. I like it. And the fact is, it's homemade. And then we get to the UK, and this is something very fucking disturbing. Children are dying from Strep A infections in the UK, and it's been linked to lockdowns. It didn't take a genius to work out the consequences of the lockdowns. We sacrifice children at the altar of pestilence, hysteria and lies. It's unforgivable. 4 weeks ago, UK school children received the flu nasal spray. Today there are children dying from Strep A. Wake the fuck up, as the poster said. This is something that you have to keep your eyes open for. And then something more from the UK. The Guardian, according to a study, people in the UK are getting sicker and poorer, and the health and wealth gap between regions are only getting worse, despite the equalisation program proposed by Boris Johnson. A record number of Britons are not economically active because of these. 2.5 million citizens are not fit to work. Guys, things are falling apart. And now listen to this ridiculous shit. Doctors and nurses should use their trusted positions to urge patients to fight climate change. How the fuck is that? To fight climate change. They abuse those professionals with the pestilence bullshit. Now they want to drag them into this cuck. The experts called for medics to use their trusted positions to change attitudes. It comes ahead of the UK hosting the Glasgow Climate Summer in November. More than a quarter of Britons are worried about climate change, polls suggest. Doctors and nurses should tell the patients to fight climate change. I have handled in previous Skidmarks the trust between patients and the professionals has been given a devastating blow by the COVID shit. Now they want to go further and abuse it more. And we're in the Ukraine. Disgusted by a proxy government that raids monasteries and churches, put priests on a kill list, and then brags about how free religion is in their country, free to be subjected to torture by their secret police. Think about that. Because that is what that people in that country, that corrupt snake pit, is doing. And then there's another monument that are being pulled down in Lviv region. A monument to the Soviet soldier has been torn down. The barbarization is going on at full swing, and I couldn't have said it better myself. And then you can look at this cartoon. Stephen Bandera wanted Poles to leave. Burning babies alive, gouging out eyes had the desired effect. In 1945, that kind of thing was a credential and not a liability. Germans wanted a united fatherland, and UPA/OUN were high-octane killers. They were perfect. I cannot believe that in 2022 we are faced with a situation where the West is supporting and financing Nazis. And then here comes the kicker. Combating glorification of Nazism, new Nazism, and other forms of racism. Now that was something, a resolution that was entered at the United Nations, where they combat the glorification of these things. And lo and behold, look at those red countries. They voted against it. The green countries voted in favor. So the main center and source of fascism is the United States. Well, people once coped with German fascism. They will cope with its American reincarnation. For the West, fascism and Nazism do not seem to be a civilizational threat, but a useful tool for a new Cold War. UN vote, highest against the glorification of Nazism. The fight against glorification of Nazism, new Nazism, and other forms of racism. And America voted against it. How is it possible? Obviously Ukraine voted against it too. Here's just another copy of that map. Look at it and shake your head. Look at the fuckers that abstained. And then we get to this one. The people, with the assistance of mainstream media, are here. True or false, nobody knows, and confusion reigns in our individualistic worlds. And it is based on what this guy said. Well, we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. William Casey, CIA Director. Think about that, let it sink in. And then we get to that warafak, and this is one of that insane warafaks. Look at that image. This is not a joke. They gather to scream at Trump through their vaginas. These are the people who want to control the government and teach your kids. Look at that. It is nauseating. These people are fucking crazy. They are mentally disturbed. They need to be in asylums, locked up, far away from people, and more, far, far, far away from children. The West has lost its morality. The West is absolutely crazy. And I'm saying it again, wouldn't it be ironic if Russia becomes the final custodian of good Western Christian values? And on that note, thank you very much for your support. As you can see, I'm sitting in the dark, but I'm used to it now. And I really appreciate all the support. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Have a great evening.